Hello everybody and welcome to the Espresso Shot Hotel Market Update. The aim of the video is to take a quick, hot and tasty hotel market view into the different Southeast Asian countries. My name is Mauro Gasparotti. I'm a director of Savills Hotels. I'm based in Ho Chi Minh City, but I supervise consulting for the whole Southeast Asia. Today we're going to have 7 different speakers. We'll cover 6 countries and we'll really get a brief update into each different country from all the speakers that we called inside. So we'll touch first on Vietnam with myself, then we'll move to Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, and Cambodia. Now, if you are interested into a specific country, then you just skip the video to the speaker that you like to hear. Now, we will start with Vietnam, which will be myself, just giving a very brief bullet point update, because we have done a full webinar a few weeks ago. It was more than 2 hours. There was a lot of speakers from all the different type of business within the hospitality. So we really suggest that if somebody wants to learn a bit more about Vietnam, to click on the link below and follow the whole webinar just done. Okay, let's move into Vietnam with a brief overview. Here, the situation was well contained from the beginning. That has allowed hotel and resort to reopen. The majority of them are now reopened, starting from city hotel, moving into June with the majority of the resort opening, trying to capture the summer. The local demand is what is driving the whole business. Local Vietnamese travel are actually pretty large in numbers, so that has set a really good base for the rebound. And we actually saw this strong rebounds in travelers in the last 2 months. A lot of promotion has been released by the majority of the resort that help the local and the expatriate to actually start to traveling more. The air traffic up to a few weeks ago was actually higher compared to the same period last year. That really could give a great sign of recovery. In terms of performance, the drive-by destinations are the one that, of course, come with a higher performance. Dalat, Ho Cham, Vung Tau, they're all achieving very encouraging rates and occupancy. The city hotel, Da Nang, Nha Trang, Phu Quoc, they're all having very busy weekends with all these summer promotion and summer travels. In terms of city hotel, probably are the one that's most hit by the whole situation. Ho Chi Minh City, on average, it's lower than 15% occupancy, including also service apartments, but the majority of the hotel actually do not reach more than a single-digit occupancy. Hanoi is doing better, mainly because of the corporate markets and the longer-term guests. But of course, we know that in the last few days, the situation has been changed with the first case registered in Da Nang last Saturday, after more than 100 days with no case in this country. So that has somehow put people into alert. Up to today, we have more than 25 cases registered in the country, but luckily they're all focused, they're all contained into Da Nang area. The Vietnam authorities act very fast, as always, was able to control it, at least it's as a quarantine the area, and stop the flight in and out from Da Nang. The resort has been evacuated in the city, and a lot of them actually asked to temporarily close down, at least for 2 weeks, to see how the situation is evolving. A strong wave of a cancellation has come, but not just in Da Nang, through the whole country. So other provinces like Nha Trang or Phu Quoc, other coastal destinations are feeling this cancellation, but also what we start to see is that new bookings are put on hold. People kind of come with a wait and see approach, and it will be completely impact all the August and September business. So there will be an impact on the performance of the majority of the hotel in the country. Even city hotel, they start to feel cancellation or hold or postponement into the event. On another good note, the planning is still ongoing. So people that look into the medium and long term, they have no no delay. We are busy, architects are busy, construction companies are busy. So really the country into the medium term is moving ahead, even in terms of pre-opening. Some pre-opening is being delayed, but this month we actually see pre-opening coming as an encouraging sign of willingness to look into the recovery. Something like the East in Nha Trang opened a few weeks ago, the Hoi An in Hoi An. So really the market want to move ahead. Another encouraging sign is the Condotel has started to launch the sale. We have more than 10 launch or relaunch after the frozen period in the last few months. So really the market is trying to looking ahead. Hopefully we come with better news on the situation in Da Nang in the next few weeks, and we'll be back on track into the recovery. Let's move to Thailand now. Our first guest speaker today, Mr. Jens Reichert, Chief Development Officer of Cross Hotel and Resort. Cross Hotel and Resort is an international hotel management company with a headquarters in Bangkok, more than 24 operating property and 18 in a pipeline in places like Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Jens, welcome to the Espresso Shot.
Good morning, Mauro, and thank you for having me on this series.
Good. So please take us through the whole situation in Thailand, how you guys are doing, how the market is doing, and what do you think is going to happen in the future?
Yes, delighted to do so. Obviously, the topic of the day and the market sentiment is all around the COVID-19 situation. COVID hit Thailand in about March 2020 as it was going around the world. April and May was a time of great uncertainty here, speculation, discussions. Nobody knew what is the right thing to do. Tourists stayed away, and that led to the closing of about 90% of all branded hotels. And my references today will be mostly to branded hotels, as the others are a little bit more to track. Fortunate for Thailand was the government had a really quick response time. They were very proactive, and against expectation, the Thai population, foreigners and Thais alike, actually followed the instructions, and hence prevented the severe spread. We only had about 3,500 cases and very few deaths. Cross Hotels and Resort actually kept several of their properties open right through the crisis, and that included a property in Bangkok, Hua Hin, Phuket, and Samui. So in June, the Thai government then announced some easements on the restrictions, curfews were lifted, businesses were reopened, activities started, and most important, there was cross-provincial travel. That was the first breakthrough for the hotel industry, and we saw domestic travel starting. Domestic travel has been leading our business now for the last 2 months. And in particular, to destinations where you can actually drive to from Bangkok. Driving to and maybe hopping on a ferry, maybe to reach an island like Samui, those were the much preferred destinations. Hopping onto a plane was considered risky and still is considered risky, and people try to avoid. So from June until today, we have seen about 80% of all branded hotels reopen in some form or shape, some completely, some partially, and the rest have stayed closed, and hopefully most will reopen, but some unfortunately will not make it. That is the sad truth. For us, this period was very strong. Our June performance was, in terms of occupancy, was in the high 80s, and our ADR actually exceeded budget and exceeded the ADR same period last year. That is very interesting, and you would ask yourself why. Well, we contributed mainly that 50% of our local business is actually direct business. So we were very strong in all terms of sales and marketing activities, social media, networking. We created our own online corporate shop where you can buy the product, and all of that really contributed in the absence of the foreign business. July is still a strong month, going well. It is supported by several public holidays in Thailand, and also the government has announced some support in terms of discounts and daily subsidiaries if you stay at hotels. So we are hoping to close July actually better than we closed June. We have 90% of bookings on the books, so it's going to be a real good month. But after that, we will see the markets getting softer. So once we start looking at August and September, people have done their travel, they got out of their apartments, but the wallets are getting compressed. There's no more public holidays of any considerable lengths of stay. So those are going to be tougher months. And it's still domestic driven. It'll still be mainly driven in, destinations where you drive to, not so much air travel, although we hope that will slowly pick up. How do we see the market going forward? Well, definitely stiff competition in the years to come. We will see, at least in the next 12 months, a lot of promotions driven by, flexible cancellation, discounting. I think the smarter ones may be more through added value and maybe upgrades and so forth. The marketeers will have campaigns around social distancing and hygiene and cleaning guidelines and the new normal. Business development as such, I think we will not see a great deal of greenfields, but probably more redesign, reuse, rebrands, at least the next 12 to 24 months. And then hopefully after that, we'll see a little bit more happening on the greenfield side. In the short term, business will be domestic, leisure driven. Hopefully towards, maybe September, October, we'll see a bit domestic corporate demand building up. And if we do our prayers regularly, I hope that in November and December, we'll see the arrival of the first international travelers. But obviously, there's a lot of question marks around that. November, December, we believe we can see 55 to 60% occupancies across Thailand, still more in the leisure destinations. The cities will still be quite tough. The sentiment going forward in the years to come after that, I think there will remain a pressure on rates for quite some time. Will we see occupancies completely recover to where they used to be? That's the big question mark, and I think there's too many unknowns at the moment to comment too much on that. But we do believe that international travel will resume because people love to travel. They're so used to it, and they need to get out of their usual environments. One other thing that we see happening is just before COVID, the previous 12 months, the big design trends were always smaller guest rooms, larger common areas, living style lobbies, communal spaces. Will that be able to survive given the new considerations of hygiene and social distancing? We don't think so. We think there'll be redesign. The rooms may be rethought again, because what we have seen now is increasing in-room dining, minibar use much more so. What was beautiful before going to the public spaces and sharing, that may just contract again and move back into the rooms to some degree. That's where we probably expect some change in the design world. In closing, as you know, we are owned by the Flight Centre Travel Group, which is one of the largest travel conglomerates in the world. And we foresee that global travel volumes will shrink. There won't be the same amount of travelers globally as pre-COVID for quite some time. And you see that belief reflected in all the major airlines. If you see what they're doing to their equipment inventories, to their planes, and what they do also to the right sizing of their companies, they're not expecting and we will be back to normal very shortly. For us, being owned by Flight Centre Travel Group, we have a very, very strong position that when they redistribute their business, that they will send it to what we call family products, and Cross Hotels and Resorts and hotels that we manage are obviously part of that. So rather than distributing the business to 30 hotels in Thailand, what we will do in the future, we will distribute that maybe to 10 hotels, and 5 of them will be the properties that we manage ourselves. So that is fortunate. That's fortunate for us. As a final tip along the way, if I may, I think we did a mistake by neglecting domestic markets and domestic business in the past, always thinking foreign markets can yield more and higher and better. I think we should not make that mistake again. There is good domestic business to be had, and that business is rather resilient to what happens in global economies. I think that summarizes my thoughts for today. Thank you so much.
Let me just ask you a couple of other questions just along the line with your things. You guys have a lot of low-rise villa products. Do you think now is an advantage having a villa over a room? Or do you think people were looking for a bit more privacy and then stay by themselves rather than sharing or staying with larger groups?
In our view, absolutely, yes. It's about privacy and containment. Yeah. So if in a villa environment where you have your own swimming pool, your own little leisure area, and of course your living section, your sleeping and so forth, and where you are catered to, food is brought in, and you can spend almost the whole day there rather than go to public restaurants or line up in a buffet or go to a highly populated beach. I think that definitely is perceived safer at the moment, and people are willing to pay the premium. We've seen that. I mean, look at the occupancies, mid-80s, mid-90s in June and July. That's good news.
And out of all the destinations in Thailand, which one do you think it will just take longer to fully recover, or at least it will be dragging this low occupancy level longer out of all the leisure destinations, or maybe even city destinations?
I think it's going to be the cities who unfortunately going to suffer for some time. Although there is so many different thoughts of school that you can have. I mean, corporate travel has to start at some point again. Economies cannot lie dead for much longer. So there's a good reason to believe that cities will receive business as well. But I think anything that's far away from Bangkok right now will struggle more than things that are reachable within 2, 3, 4 hours of travel by car or ferry from Bangkok. Phuket at the moment suffers from that. Phuket is a 90% international market typically. In the absence of charters, it is hard to reach. In the absence of flight to Bangkok and then connecting, it's hard to reach by car. So I think those markets will unfortunately take a little bit longer to recover.
Last question on your pipeline. You guys have a lot of projects in the pipeline. Is that being stopped? Are the projects still being constructed or pre-opening happening, or everybody just stopped and will wait?
Yeah, well, it's a mixed bag, Mauro, to be honest. So our mandate is obviously to follow the Flight Centre Travel Group's global network and expand globally. Our focus is Southeast Asia, with the next steps being into Japan and Australia. The projects in Southeast Asia that we have on hand really is sort of half and half. Some are confirmed, strong developers behind. They took a little time to rethink, but they are back. But the other half really has to rethink if they can see the projects through. And we will have to see. We don't know. Where we have made really good headway is in Japan. People love our brand over there, and hopefully within the next 6 months we will be announcing quite some interesting things. And obviously on our home ground in Australia, that is part of our pretty much immediate expansion strategy. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much for all the data. Hopefully, and all the update that you're inside. Hopefully, we'll have you in some of our larger and longer webinar. But thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing all those information.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And I hope the information is helpful to my colleagues in the market. Thank you.
We'll move now to the second speaker, still talking about the Thai markets, and we'll move straight on to look a bit more into each destination. With us, Mr. Frederic Garnier. Frederic is the Executive Vice President of Nova Asset Management. Nova is an hospitality consultancy firm specializing in development, asset management, and owner representation in Southeast Asia region, with focus in Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Welcome, Frederic, to the Espresso Shots.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you very much for having me today.
Good. Let's straight on continue the discussion into Thailand. Please give us your overview on how is the activity over there in this period, how is the domestic market doing, and if you have some number to share with us, please do.
All right. Well, I think as everybody knows, and I think as we used to discuss, the industry is going through a very difficult time at the moment. Luckily, we are in a part of the world where I think especially Thailand and Vietnam has been very successful at containing the pandemic, which leads, I know for a fact, Vietnam to bounce back very, very fast. When it comes to Thailand, I would say that the situation is a bit different. Even though the pandemic has been contained, our borders are still closed at the moment. So tourism is very, very highly impacted. If you look at numbers, last year we hit close to 40 million visitors in 2019, and of course the government, the private sector was aiming for greater number for 2020. The trend was really good, but then COVID-19 break out in Q1, which basically affect those numbers tremendously. We took in March. In March, we took a 80% cut on the arrival numbers compared to last year. So, for example, I think last year we were in March at 3.5 million. In 2019, we achieved like barely 800,000 only in 2020. So and March was only the beginning of all the measure that's been implemented by the government and the stop of flights, inbound flights. So TAT used to forecast for this year 14 to 16 million, not more, but this was back in March, and I think by now the number are decreasing because the reopening of the country to tourism is still not. We still don't have a date. In July, we reopened to a few category of travelers, which are mainly business travelers, families, and families of people that are living or working in Thailand. But tourism is still not on that list. Therefore, a lot of hotel remain closed basically in various parts of Thailand. So this was very, very challenging, I would say. If we look at destination, I think that the Thai government and the tourism body in Thailand have been working really hard to do what every other country are doing, is basically trying to focus on domestic market. And I can say that Thailand used to be very, very strong and is still very strong in domestic market. The Thais are doing what people like to call here revenge traveling. So people are, they have been locked down for few weeks, months in Thailand, in Bangkok, for example, and they are happy that now there is a bit return to normal in Bangkok and other cities, but they are happy to go and travel around Thailand. Of course, the destination that are benefiting the most this revenge traveling are destinations which are driving distance from Bangkok. So if you look at some of our clients in Pattaya or Hua Hin or Kanchanaburi, those hotels are doing extremely well. In fact, some of them are actually doing better than before COVID. ADRs are up, occupancy are up, and you know, weekdays are not much of a problem anymore. So people are really trying to spend time in those destinations, and in fact, we also see a very big focus on smaller scale property. You know, something like not more than 150 rooms are doing very well. Pool villa are doing extremely well. We see rates close to $1,000 for pool villa in Pattaya on weekend, and close to $600 on weekdays, and occupancy is above 80%. So those are I would say the good news. Those are the good news. So yeah, destination like Pattaya, Hua Hin, Kanchanaburi, Rayong, Koh Samet, anything 3 hours from Bangkok are doing really well. A lot of hotels are doing a lot of promotion. Pay now, stay later. I think the whole situation have challenged all the sales and marketing activities, the way people used to market their properties, the way people used to distribute. So I think this has created a lot of brainstorming in brands and non-branded hotel, but in the distribution the whole distribution has been very reinvented. After when Bangkok is doing a lot of staycation for the hotel that remains open. There is a lot of staycation. There is a big focus on F&B. I think that people are also trying, a lot of hotels reopen only the F&B outlet, which is quite interesting to see that people are looking at alternative way to generate revenue, and they realize that if they actually focus on that part of the hotel, it can actually be a good business generation. So that's basically where Bangkok is. But again, Bangkok is struggling, I would say, in terms of hotel. A lot of hotels remaining closed. Few of them reopen in July. Few of them are planning to reopen in August. We have clients looking at reopening only, next year, also Q1, Q2 next year. So there is a bit of everything in Bangkok, but the situation is not easy. I would say one of the good thing is we have clients. As an example, we have clients who are looking at doing renovation next year, for example. And because of the COVID, what we looked at, we were forced to close the hotel for a few weeks. And basically, what we looked at is we look at fast forwarding that renovation. So we worked hard with the owner on preparing the whole repositioning process and renovation. And basically, because we had to be closed, let's close and renovate. So we move forward those work to this year, and it will last until mid of next year, which at the end of the day, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to look at your asset. It's an opportunity for owners to look at their asset in a greater detail and see what they can improve in their asset to rebound faster. To rebound faster next year.
Thank you, Fred. How about the flying destination like Phuket and Samui?
Yes, basically those destinations have been more impacted, I would say, than others, because they were relying mainly on overseas tourism. So if you look at Phuket, where Chinese and Russian tourists were one of the leading inbound markets. Those destinations are really struggling. Phuket, Samui, even Chiang Mai is struggling. So Chiang Mai is still benefiting a bit from domestic travel, but Phuket and Samui are being very much impacted. A lot of hotels are closed until further notice. We have clients there, plus we talked to a few other owners who are looking at not reopening until next year. Even this high season is something that a lot of hotel owners have already put aside, and they know that it will be difficult, because even though the situation can improve in the coming months, I think that the general feeling of the traveler getting back on the plane and so on is not, it will take time to come back. The same way Thailand or Vietnam or other countries in Europe as well are doing it. People are focusing on traveling and discovering destinations around their area, within their country, and basically people are planning for travel. So people are buying now. They want to buy into a place that they know they can go. They know they can go to. If someone is buying a ticket to go to Phuket in December, who knows if the situation will remain the same, if the situation will evolve. Thailand has been, pushing back the reopening of the international flights for a few months already. It can still happen. We see second waves happening in other countries. So I think it's difficult to bet on this high season for those destinations. Of course, some of the big hotels will be ready to reopen, and will definitely enjoy the fact that others are closed and so on. So those are a good time to renovate hotel, to rethink about the positioning and so on. But big destination like Phuket, Samui are struggling.
So your best guess will be to looking into Q2, Q3 2021 in terms of a full recovery, or even further down? Like everyone would like to know. All our clients are asking. It's we don't have a crystal ball to give a clear on that, but definitely the situation will be difficult. We foresee the situation to be very difficult until Q1, Q2 next year. That's for sure. We are looking at let's say situation back to normal more or less towards the end of next year, I would say. Q3, Q4, but like Q1, Q2 is probably coming back slowly, and after several months of closure, it takes time to put the machine back into operation. A lot of the staff have been laid off or put on pause. You need to put back the team together and restart the engine, basically. So it will take time. Yes, thank you, Fred. Just we already ran out of time, but a quick one, just following your discussion now. Pre-opening, do you see pre-opening now happening, or everything has stopped and it will move to next year? Is there some client that are still considering to open the hotel that was almost open, or everything completely stopped and we'll rediscuss next year?
So at the moment, most of the portfolio of pre-opening hotel or hotel that were due to open, most of them have been put on hold. When it comes to anything that was supposed to happen, and we had actually a hotel was supposed to open on the beginning of March, and basically at the moment we just pause it. When it comes to hotels that are supposed to open towards mid next year, the pre-opening process is still going. So basically this is still going as per plan. So with a lot of adjustment in, design to make sure that, it will cover all the post-COVID, being more space, buffets being, in F&B space, all the buffet space are being rethink, the reception and the whole spacing is something that's been taken in consideration when it's come to opening.
Thank you very much, Fred. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to see you hopefully in Bangkok or in Vietnam on the next trip. And thanks again for sharing all the information with us.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, friend. So let's move to our next market. We'll talk about Indonesia. Our first guest from Indonesia is Mr. Norbert, Vice President Business Development of Archipelago International. Archipelago International is one of the Southeast Asia largest privately owned hotel operator, managing more than 150 hotels in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Saudi Arabia, and Cuba. Welcome to the Espresso Shot, Norbert.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you very much. And thanks for inviting me to join. I'm really excited to be part of that. Thank you.
So please, we have the espresso time, so not too long. Take us through the Indonesian market situation and what do you think will be for the future?
Well, okay, thanks a lot. First of all, please allow me to state here, I can really only comment on our own situation. I only have access to really precise information and trading volumes of our own hotels. But I believe that to be very representative, here in Indonesia, we operate 148 hotels. So the bulk of our hotels are in Indonesia. And I will focus only on Indonesia, not on the Philippines, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and Cuba for now, right? So to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the current status, yeah. Out of the 148 hotels, 142 are open, 6 are closed. We had up to 27 hotels closed at one point, but step by step started reopening them. The 6 hotels that are still closed are all in Bali, and I will get to the reasons about that later. Out of those 142 operating hotels, as yesterday's numbers I would like to share, we had still 14 hotels that were trading below 10% occupancy. They're all in Bali. We had another 28 hotels that were trading between 10 and 20% occupancy, 29 hotels between 20 and 30%, 23 hotels, and now it's becoming interesting, it's getting better, 23 hotels are trading between 30 and 40%, 14 hotels are trading between 40 and 49%, and 21 hotels last night were trading at above 50%. Those numbers are better when we are getting on weekends. Last Saturday, for example, 67 of our 142 hotels traded above 50% occupancy, which is pretty interesting. In average now, over the last month, we have around 37 hotels achieving 50% occupancy plus already. And we have 61 hotels, again, out of 142 open, that are already achieving break-even points. Yeah? So the situation is actually not that bad and getting better. System-wide, average, month to date, between our 20,000 plus rooms, we are at 37% occupancy, which is, we're happy, it's above our expectations about that. Now, Indonesia is being a very large country. The situation is very, very different in different parts of the country. As I said before already, Bali is still suffering. We have 6 hotels closed, and the 14 hotels that are trading below 10% in our system are all in Bali. People are not flying. International tourism isn't happening. News are confusing, even domestic flights, different airlines, different regulation, different paper requirements is very confusing. Most people are like me, they just say, well, I don't really know what I need to do. I'm allowed to fly. I might as well stay home for another month or two and wait. So nobody's flying. But people are also really, really eager to get out. And we can see that out of the many hotels that are trading above 50% occupancy, especially on Saturday, last Saturday, right? 67 hotels above 50% occupancy. They're all within driving distance. Most of them are within driving distance of larger cities, especially Jakarta. Our resort in Anya on the West Coast traded 100% last Saturday occupancy, full house, right? Our hotels in Boga and Centros are doing well on weekends. So that is the scenario right now in Indonesia. What I hear from my colleagues in other hotel industry, they're seeing similar results. Although I believe, and I have to say so, we are a little bit more aggressive when it comes to promoting and participating in flash sales. For example, the largest OTA here in Indonesia is a company called Ticket.com. 80% of their current hotel sales volume is within our group. So we're doing pretty well in this regard. But when will we get back to normal? That's what everybody wants to know. Well, I do not have a crystal ball, but we as a company, me personally also, we tend to be very, very conservative. Being an operator and an asset manager, we believe it is our responsibility to be conservative and not sugarcoat things. So we are reaching out to our hotels, we are reaching out to our hotel owners and giving them a very conservative forecast for the future. We do not believe that we will be back to pre-corona trading volumes until the end of next year. Yes, we will see some hotels, especially in certain locations in Jakarta, will actually even see bigger trading volumes than before corona because of pent-up demand. But system-wide and resort-wise, especially in the MICE segment, we will see that things will change and it will take us more than a year to get back to normal. And I would recommend to everyone who is listening to this, everyone who's operating hotels, everyone who owns hotels in Indonesia, please be very conservative, don't be over bullish, manage your cash flow, prepare for the worst. And that's what we are doing right now. Interestingly enough, there's a little funny side story about that, and maybe some people will laugh, but it's nothing true. We all of a sudden see a lot of demand and inquiries for rushed weddings, small weddings. Yeah, lockdown, people get bored, there's nothing on TV. You understand what I'm saying, but the funny thing is, you're laughing, we can really see it. It's really happening. So we are doing a lot of promotions on wedding packages, local wedding packages, small weddings, 10, 15, 20, 30 people, and we're getting tons of suddenly booked wedding business. Funny. Anyway, enough about that. It's like Austria, when we have a really cold winter, we have a lot of people being born in August. So we have the same scenario here now. It's kind of funny. Now, what do we recommend, or what should we do, or what we have done is, for us, the number one thing we looked at right away was cash flow management. Getting our hotels, getting our FCs and our general managers to do a proper cash flow analysis. Many of them, of course, had the skill. Some of them needed additional training. Redo the cash flow every 2 weeks. Really look at it carefully. Because being able to give the owner an outlook on the cash flow is more important than actually what kind of a GOP we are running, right? It's all about cash. Collecting accounts receivable, holding back on accounts payable if you can, as long as it's ethical. So cash flow management is the most important right now. And we have focused on that a lot and done quite well. If you see more than 60 hotels already above our break-even point. To manage that, of course, payroll, the most important thing, right? And here is something where we are extremely fortunate here in Indonesia. I do not really know how this is in other countries, but our staff is very willing to make sacrifices. We have basically all of our 17,000 plus employees on 15 to, in some cases, even 20 unpaid leave days per month. We have a system, they go online, it's all really managed. And so far, we have that since March. We started early. I'm not aware of a single complaint when an employee actually said, enough is enough, I need to make more than half. Yeah, they all understand. We are now at the point where hotel by hotel, case by case, we're looking at the cash flow, and we started increasing and bringing more people back to work. We're also very happy because of that, and because of our employees' willingness to accept unpaid leave days, we didn't have to lay off anybody. So that's also, nobody lost their job. We're very proud of that. And I believe we're the only company, when I listen, so what's going on, we are the only company, head office as well as hotel, who didn't lay off any people, and we're very happy about it. So cash flow management, payroll management, extremely important. Simultaneously, of course, everybody is doing it. We are no special there. Cleaning standards, safety standards for employees and guests, extremely important. Educating ourselves early enough in March already what is necessary, implementing it, training, supervising is, all of that is going down. I think our hotels are actually, they're all certified. We follow the guidelines by the World Travel and Tourism Council, and we get our plaque, and we are certified from the outside, not our own little certification program. So I think that was very important also in building trust and confidence with the market, and might be a reason why we have so many hotels running a positive GOPs already. In addition to that, we were kind of lucky in a sense where one of our owners who owns several of our hotels also has a big pharmacy chain, and we were able to buy literally thousands and thousands of rapid test kits, which we did, and distributed to our hotels, and we started a mandatory testing program. So in all of our hotels, every 2 weeks, including myself, everybody's getting a rapid test. And to be honest with you, we have found so far 37 staff that acted reactive, immediately sent them into self-isolation and into a swab test. Out of those 37, 7 actually tested positive after the swab test. But I believe that for us, for me personally, I come to the office every day and I feel safe because I know everybody's tested. And it's the same in the hotels. And I think many of our guests and the local media in particular has picked it up very, very well. That 20,000 people in Archipelago International are being tested every 2 weeks and sponsored by us, and we do that. So that has been extremely helpful.
Thank you, Norbert. Thank you very much. Do you have any other good info to share with us?
Are you over time already? Sorry, I'm getting so passionate. I didn't realize the time was getting so fast.
It's good. We have a few other speakers to come. It's a lot of good points. I think there are a lot of things to actually develop a bit more. One quick question for you and very quick answer on your pipeline. Is this affecting your upcoming opening of hotel or construction, or everything is still moving? Very short answer.
No, we have in the pipeline 67 hotels, and more than half of that are on temporary hold. So it's affecting us a lot. Simultaneously, though, we are getting more inquiries from owners with existing hotels who want to rebrand because they are unhappy with the current situation and they start realizing there's value in having an operator. So it balances itself out. Just the recent signing that we just did, we signed a contract about 3 days ago, was for a rebranding of an existing big, beautiful hotel in Gorontalo. So there's plus and minuses.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Norbert. I'm sorry I need to cut the time because, of course, the whole.
I'm sorry.
But it was interesting. Next time we'll definitely have you in one of our larger webinars, maybe speaking a bit more about all the interesting points you just made, including the wedding. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we'll move to our next insider, still from Indonesia, and we'll look a bit more into the specific market updates. Our second guest today discussing Indonesian market, Mr. Edward Faull, Executive Director of Swiss-Belhotel International. Swiss-Belhotel was founded in '87, has headquarters in Hong Kong with more than 145 hotels and resorts under management in 21 different countries, under 15 different brands. So very happy to have Edward with us today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mauro, from wintry cold New Zealand.
Yes, we know you stuck there for a few months, and later maybe you tell us a bit more about that. But first, let's start from Indonesia. If you can take us through a bit, I know you guys are very active there. You have a lot of property, a lot of pipeline. What is going on in that market, and when do you see a recovery?
Okay, so we've been in Indonesia. Obviously, we went there as one of the first hotel management companies back in '94. Was our first property in Indonesia. As far as Indonesia goes, it's starting to get really, really hard hit by COVID at the moment. Although the way Indonesia is dealing with it, they have very much a mitigation process rather than a full lockdown process. So in March, April, and getting into May, it was very, very heavy. They did start to lock down, and travel was halted. More than the industry slowing it down, it was more the businesses. People were just too scared to travel. They were too worried about everything. This lasted, they had lockdown for about a week or so, for about a month. They locked down for about a month, and then the businesses really started to suffer. And with the breakdown in Indonesia, these people only have 2 to 3 weeks kind of lifestyle, kind of savings, so they needed to get back to work. So Indonesia has come back. We have found that we've introduced new businesses with obviously medical staff. We've done a lot of that in Jakarta. We've done a lot of quarantine hotels in Jakarta as well. But also the business is coming back now. So we're seeing a real lift, except for Bali. Bali still has that international market. It's still having a lot of trouble getting that occupancy. But across our other regions, we see a real kickback, a real push from the business, but we're still not seeing that room rate. The room rate has been hammered, and another big part of Indonesian hotel business is your MICE business. Your MICE business has really fallen off the cliff. That's the hard one coming back. We're putting in a lot of. We have a special 10 commitments and hygiene standards that we've introduced during the COVID time, and we've been pushing this out a lot. To the problem with the MICE business is buffets. Buffets are a real big issue. They're a bit of a crux of your MICE business, and what really drives your revenue is including that F&B part of the sale. And we've been working on really getting that hygiene standard for buffets for MICE back on board, and we're not quite there yet. We still don't have the confidence that it's hygienic enough, but we're very close to rolling out a system that will work in those. Your standard buffets are still a big no-no. So you can't have those guests coming in and mingling in. So F&B has been probably the hardest hit element, and your room rates reflect that, because it takes out all your free breakfast. It takes out all your add-ons and additions. Your in-room dining has skyrocketed a little bit, but it's still not bringing back that top line revenue, and that's where you're suffering. As for in our other regions, we're still seeing, the big one I see coming back now is there's a lot of development. A lot of our projects that slowed down for 3 or 4 months during the lockdown are now all coming back online. So the pre-opening processes are all kicking off again. All the owners are pushing for their openings. And we should be, in Indonesia, we should be looking to open, I'd say 4 or 5 properties in Q4 this year. They're really aiming to push for that Q4. And anything that was planned to open this year, they're definitely planning for Q1 next year. So they're seeing that business coming back. We're forecasting that business coming back. And we see those green shoots turning into your actual stronger trees coming back. And the businesses, you can definitely feel the business coming back and the development. Obviously, we're throughout all our properties, we're running PPE on all our staff. We're hiring more housekeeping staff. We have more public area cleaning, more sanitizing. We're using chemicals in a wider range of areas just to ensure that those areas are sanitized. We're using combinations of UV lights in some areas. That was more of a trial process. We see we're not seeing a big effect from that, but they are working in some of your more open areas, meeting rooms. The bedrooms are a little bit too constrained with their surface areas, but definitely in open spaces, the UV lights are working. We're using air sanitizers. We're using a lot of different ways to ensure that our guests have confidence in the sanitization and the safety of our hotels. And also extra training for all our staff to make sure that they're staying healthy, they're staying sanitized, and they're not picking up things from their villages and bringing it into the hotels, and they're not taking things from the hotels back to their villages. So they have a sanitizing process before they come into the hotel and when they leave the hotel as well, just to ensure there's not that cross-contamination happening.
Great.
We're also running it at a corporate level as well. So all our corporate staff, they're still on split teams. We have A team and B team, so there's no cross-contamination. And we have regular testing of our staff available for free, so they can do that and they can feel the confidence with coming into our office and being in a safe work environment.
When do you think is the market start to come back? Actually, I got two questions just to follow up. You say that some of the destinations are doing much better than the other. I've heard that in Indonesia, the drive-by destination seems getting popular, like a few other countries. Do you guys feel a lot of different from your upscale and the mid-scale type of hotel? Is the mid-scale picking up easier a volume of guests than the upscale, or pretty much similar?
So we've seen with our numbers, obviously, Indonesia, we have outside of Bali and most of Jakarta, we're mostly domestic business. I'd say we're between 70 to 80% pre-COVID was domestic business. So it was all that government business, it was all that corporate business of Indonesians moving up and down the archipelago, which is basically what they do for business. It's so big, there's such a big population. There is a swather of travel going back and forth. We're definitely seeing the pickup in your 3-star faster than the 4-star. The 4-star was definitely that level which has fell off faster and is coming back slower than the 3-star. The 3-star and 2-stars they've still held a bit strong because that was the real necessary travel. That was the people that were traveling into cities and working for a week and then going back to their villages for the weekends. It was that temporary living accommodation almost, as well as people that had to travel. It was essential travel at that level. The 4-stars are starting to come back, but also they do have that big MICE component, that big wedding component, that big gathering component in the convention business, which hasn't come back yet.
And moving to the second question, then we have 1 minute left. Bali specifically, it seems it's pretty low in terms of occupancy. Of course, you rely heavily into international tourists. When do you think the situation will start to get better? And what property are doing now in that period? Are they closing down or just hoping to get a business soon?
So currently 80%. So we have six properties in Bali that are closed. We have 2 that are open, and those are taking a lot of kind of long stay. That's your month long. It's very low room rate. It's more owners that were able to sit there and say, I didn't want to close my hotel. I want to keep it going. I want to keep the staff employed, and I want to push through this thing. They are starting to struggle now as well. Bali have got very high land costs. You've got the loans, the mortgages on these hotels are astronomical, and in the good times, Bali's tough. So in these times, Bali's really tough. And we're sitting there, and we run very closely with our hotel owners, and we're running weekly cash flows with them. Our executives are keeping in touch and making sure that those cash flows are in, and we advise with the forecast as to what's coming up. I think for Bali, I still can't see through the woodwork yet. I think Q2 next year could be a time where it will start to come back. It's still pure speculatory, but we do have normal levels of bookings starting to come in. There's a lot of the Australian markets that that are having a bit of a gamble and kind of booking that far out an event, hoping that'll come through. And a lot of the hotels are doing a no fee cancellation policy. So, you know, you can see the guests want to come back, the guests are pushing to come back, and I think as soon as it does open, they will be back, and it's just a matter of time up. But I'd say mid next year would be a safe bet that hopefully we've got this thing under control, and people will be more than happy to travel again as long as they can go home. I think the biggest draw card is that if they travel to Bali, then they have to quarantine when they go back home.
Yeah,
rather than the other way around.
That's everybody problem to me as well here in Vietnam. I could actually travel in other countries because that's the OU in New Zealand. There is actually we stay in a pretty safe country, so other people will accept us. Is the coming back the problem? Thank you very much, Edward, to being part of our Espresso Shot today. A lot of insight, very good. Looking forward to see you. Maybe I know you have some plan to come back to Asia. I don't know if Indonesia or Vietnam, but looking forward to see you back here.
Yes, definitely. No, hopefully in the next couple of months, I keep checking every day as to how I can get my visa to come back to Vietnam, because there's a lot of business going on. There's still a lot of business confidence up there, and there's a lot of things going on. So I'm eager to get back into it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Edward.
Thank you, Mauro. Talk to you soon.
So we'll move now to our next country. We'll touch into Philippines. So we'll have Astia into this part, which will talk about the market, but we'll ask her to expand a little bit more and maybe bring a bit more data into other cities. Moving to Filipino market with us today, Ms. Fenadi Uriarte, Business Development Manager of Astia. Fenadi has been with us in many of the webinars. He has a lot of information to share with us. So hopefully today we'll touch Philippines, but we'll also have from her a bit of insight about other markets. Welcome to the Espresso Shot, Fenadi.
Thank you, Mauro, for the kind introduction. It's always lovely to be part of your webinars. So if you would allow me, I will be happy to share you some of the quick shots of data for Southeast Asia. So particularly focusing on the Philippine market. So let me put in the slide for you. So what we are going to see is a general overview of the Southeast Asia. So what you're seeing here are that's of occupancy about the weekly movements. So the timeline that we are looking at would be performances for the week of April, May, June, and July. So particularly the first week. So there are buckets of red and green. In April, what we can see are some of the greens are a representation of 75% occupancies, but towards July, the dominant bucket of 25% occupancy is already going a lot for the submarket of the region. So a little bit of teal color will be for some markets into higher occupancy percentages. One particular market which falls into the teal is Singapore and the Philippines in April and May. Now for June, Philippine market moves towards the orange bucket. So let's hover more insights in the Philippine market. So let me put in the next slide for you. Now the capital Philippines, of the Philippines, Manila, this is one market that has managed to perform slightly better than the other markets in terms of occupancy. During the total lockdown, occupancy was around 50% level. So this is already has declined to 30% towards June and July because of the strict quarantine was lifted around this time. Now, it was the call center industry, which is categorized as an essential industry that kept the hotels afloat. So they have long-term stays and as well as those select quarantine hotels for returning overseas Filipino workers. But then, like I said, when the quarantine was eased and the public transport was opened, what we have seen is that occupancy started to decline by 30% in the metro. Now, unfortunately, for the resort destinations, many hotels have temporarily closed due to the fact that there's not enough demand and no flights available. So when we talk to some of the independent hotels, they would prefer to stay closed towards the fourth quarter because the demand is not there. And of course, they're keeping a close watch into the operations and also the expenses that may incur. Now, if the Philippine capital do come back to a new normal, with much ease restriction. The government, of course, is banking on domestic tourism, just like any other destinations in the region, to boost the hospitality industry. More likely, those destinations which are traveled by road will have more opportunities for short holidays, especially for the island destination. Now, let's flicker to another slide. So what I'm going to share to you would be for 3 markets. So we are going to look at 3 markets with varying performances. Malaysia's overall occupancy, as you can see here. So there's a little bit of restrictions still for Malaysia. Overall occupancy is at 19%, and for the past 6 weeks, if you would average that, Kuala Lumpur is around 14%. Though there are spikes of occupancy on Saturdays, which is around 40%, and that is a good indication for the market. Now let's move to Indochina, Thailand. With lesser cases of the flu, domestic is now open, but still some restrictions there. But then again, like I said, it's very limited. Bangkok occupancy remains challenging at 13% for the last, when we look at the first week of July, while this main submarket, one of the main submarkets, Sukhumvit, is running towards 15% occupancy. Now, let's move to your market, Mauro. Now, domestic is open, obviously, for Vietnam. And the first market to open in the region, actually, we've seen some good spikes on the weekend, particularly some destinations like Da Nang. So when we look at Hanoi, continuously, if I would average the occupancy levels from April up to July, we are seeing that Hanoi remains around 25% occupancy, while Ho Chi Minh averages to 13% only. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we speak to our friends in the industry. So this is the time of revising the budget, and where everyone is looking at close scrutiny on expenses and P&L, and of course, trying to be creative in how to create more demand in this time of crisis. Over to you, Mauro.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you. There was a very espresso, very short and very hot. Just a quick question for you, just to pick up on what you say about Manila and Philippines. You say that we will move, same as a lot of other markets, into domestic travelers. Do you think there would be enough to start to fill up the hotel around? Will Philippines survive with the domestic travelers, or will see a situation like Bali, where some of the destination Philippines will be completely empty? And the second question, you are now there. Are people scared to travel now, or they still feel confident, or they worry and waiting?
I think confidence is travel. It's the flight that is absolutely a big challenge, because right now there's a lot of bottleneck, and there are some domestic flights, but just recently Cebu, which is another top island destination and city, went back to strict lockdown, or the strictest quarantine that we have seen. So they moved towards ease restriction and then back to a strict restriction because of more numbers, more cases in the country. So I guess when it comes to confidence, obviously everyone is scared to travel, especially to fly. But with road travels, you travel by car with your family. So that might be a better position when there are restrictions towards, because there's a lot of checkpoints, different provinces. So more likely those in the north part, when you can travel for about 3 to 5 hours, they have more potentials than those that you need to travel by plane, like Cebu, Bohol, maybe Davao. So only the flights now are catering for not for leisure, but more of those who has been stuck in the city and then going back home.
Thank you, Benedict. Thank you very much. Enjoy your period with your family over there, and hopefully I'll see you in our next webinar coming next month. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll move now to our next country, which will be Singapore, where I will connect directly to some of my colleagues over there. Okay, excellent. Moving to Singapore with my colleague, Miss Stella Grant, Senior Manager at Savills Hotel Asia Pacific. Stella focused on working with local and international investors who are seeking to invest capital in Asia Pacific hotel and resorts, And sometimes she comes to see me in Vietnam or Thailand when we have a client meeting or event. So Stella, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the Espresso Shot.
Thank you very much for having me, Mauro. Looking forward to speaking to you about the Singapore market.
Good. So we know you are stuck there in Singapore now for a few months. You cannot travel. Nobody can. So give us, please, an espresso timing overview of the market and how is the life over there.
So, of course, as you know, Singapore has been a little bit slow to open back up when you compare it to other countries, for example, Vietnam. You've been very lucky. But I think when we look at the performance of the Singapore market, especially over lockdown, we haven't seen such a big drop as we have across the other Asia Pacific countries. And actually, I think this has been predominantly because a lot of the hotels are served as government quarantine facilities during that period. So the latest June STR data, which you would have seen, is actually quite similar in Singapore to that of May. We haven't seen a huge difference, and that's again because Singapore has been quite slow to open up. But we're in July now, and we do currently have 62 hotels in Singapore that have reopened. And these include some of the big iconic properties like the really newly renovated Raffles Hotel, Marina Bay Sands, the Fullerton Hotel as well. So we expect that to have a good impact on the July STR data when it comes out, especially when we're looking at obviously average daily rates and the RevPAR as well. So it's tough here in Singapore, and I think the other thing to bear in mind, the slight disadvantage that the Singapore hotel industry has is that we don't have a huge pool of domestic travelers. Whereas in Vietnam you have a lot of domestic travel already. Here, it's a small island, so it's much more difficult from that respect. But I do think hotels are going to take advantage of the fact that there are travel restrictions, and also there's definitely pent-up demand here among Singapore residents, myself included, who will definitely be taking advantage of the staycation packages that will be on offer. Yeah.
Thank you, Stella. How is the restaurant business then? It's everything back on track. People are going to eat. How is the situation of the F&B?
So that's definitely picked up, and walking around Singapore, there is already a buzz. Walking past restaurants, they're looking relatively full. You can essentially go out to groups of 5 people and no more, but people are definitely taking advantage of that. And I think the key thing for hotels and restaurants is going to be ensuring that you still have a good atmosphere despite the social distancing that's having to be implemented. So it's picking up.
It's coming back. And any news or any rumors into the reopening of international flight, or the possibility of you guys just flying some specific country, or that's still very much a topic that nobody can talk about?
I think Singapore is going to be probably one of the last places in Asia Pacific to actually, fully reopen its borders. I think especially when it comes to leisure travel. And I think that's going to be a difficult thing for hotels, especially, with the Singapore government support, financial government support for the hotels. That's due to conclude in October. So I think so far that's been really helpful to help hotel owners maintain a positive GOP. But after October, hotels will have to be really clever in how they generate new revenue streams, etc. So I think the new normal here in Singapore is going to be quite different to countries like Vietnam, where I think there's already a lot of freedom of movement and borders opening up as well.
Yes, I test a bit of jealousy over there, but yes, it's true. Here we are absolutely free. Nothing happened, and we can absolutely travel. But even Thailand, I mean, we had a few guests from Thailand today. Seems also the situation that domestic travel it's leading. Indonesia as well, the domestic travel is actually moving. So Singapore, yes, I agree with you that it was always been a business and foreign traveling coming there. Let's for 1 second talk about this staycation promotion around again the word staycation itself. And I told you before, I think it was actually invented in Singapore, but somehow it took place in other countries. Does it work? So people that actually go to the hotel to stay, to have an F&B package, and have you used it? Have you been in any of the hotel or any F&B package just to attract the local?
Yeah, personally, I haven't yet had a chance to venture out, but we do have a couple of bank holidays coming up, so definitely we'll be taking advantage of that opportunity. I think there's definitely very attractive packages on at the moment. You know, a complimentary night or a certain amount of credit to be spent in the restaurants and bar in the hotel, or credit towards spa facilities as well. So I think in Singapore, it's a relatively, wealthy nation. And I think with so many people being locked up for so long, there's definitely going to be an uptake on all of these offers. And, an opportunity to really enjoy Singapore and explore Singapore before people can travel again. So absolutely.
Thank you very much, Stella. Thank you for being with us and sharing your insight on the market. And our last speaker today for Cambodian market, Mr. Douglas London, Principal of Perception Hospitality. Perception Hospitality is an hospitality consultancy company with a primary focus on providing service to owner to ensure they are optimizing the value of the asset. Douglas is also owner representative for the Rosewood in Phnom Penh. He has been flying back and forth from Vietnam to Cambodia for a while, so we'll be happy to have his insight into the market. Welcome to our Espresso Shots, Douglas.
Thanks, Mauro. It's good to be here.
So please take us through a very quick update into Cambodia, what's going on there, and what do you see into the future of that market?
Okay, well, Cambodia is doing it tough right now. I mean, within my client base, I represent 6 hotels in Cambodia, of which 5 are currently closed. The Rosewood in Phnom Penh is continuing to trade, and Phnom Penh hotels continue to operate. In Siem Reap, the majority of hotels have been closed. Some of them are now sort of going through this sort of soft reopening period, but in many cases it's opening for the sake of reopening. I think everyone's got a little bit tired of just having their assets sitting completely empty, so they are trying to open, trying to attract a little bit of the domestic market, but it's not like Vietnam. There's not a strong domestic market within Cambodia that can sustain the hotels. So the situation is pretty dire, especially in those markets that are served by inbound international traffic. So Siem Reap hotels, we're not expecting real business to materialize possibly until Q1 next year. So we are looking at hotels that are furloughing large amounts of their staff and are really sort of hunkering down until such time as we can see international traffic returning into the destinations.
Is the Siem Reap pretty much closed down, or still it's open? I've heard a lot of hotels that actually decide to completely close down. Yeah,
I mean, the hotels are more or less open, but they have no occupancy. So yes, you can walk in, the lights are on, there are a few staff around. Siem Reap as a village is still functioning normally. They haven't had cases of infection for quite some time, but there is just no international traffic coming in through the airport. As such, if anybody can get to Siem Reap, it's a fantastic time to visit the temples because you can pretty much have Angkor Wat to yourself.
But nobody can access Cambodia now.
Nobody can access. Well, yeah, there are flights still coming in from China. There are about 4 flights a day coming in through Phnom Penh, and they have this surety deposit in place whereby people are paying $3,000 as a deposit to arrive into the city, and there are a few Chinese business travelers that are taking advantage of that, but the leisure market is non-existent.
So Phnom Penh somehow he's still surviving a bit through this business market.
Yeah, it's surviving. It's really not enough business to generate operating profits, but they are keeping going, so to speak.
How about the F&B business? I know that your property in Phnom Penh was doing pretty well with the local business as well.
Yeah.
You have some of the best hotel in town. Is that still working?
Yeah, we have Rosewood Phnom Penh has one restaurant still closed, and we'll consider reopening that further down the track. I'll give a free plug here for Rosewood Phnom Penh. We opened a fantastic Chinese restaurant at the beginning of June, and it performed better than any prior month we've ever seen in any of the F&B outlets at Rosewood Phnom Penh. So the local market is willing to spend. They are willing to go out and support the hotels, but it's a finite local market.
So very niche. How about wedding business? Was it popular before as a wedding destination?
No, I can't speak beyond Rosewood. I mean, it wasn't a strong wedding market hotel simply because the ballroom is not big enough for a typical Khmer wedding, which is 500 plus people. We couldn't cater to that sort of size. I would have to do a little bit more research to see if there's still much of a wedding market going on within the city, or things have been toned down.
Excellent. And one last thing into just stretching out of Sihanoukville, so stretching into really the leisure destination. I know you probably don't have much over there under operation, but I remember that there was this wave of supply coming. Is construction still happening and still people still moving, or everything has stopped in terms of just pre-opening and construction?
Yeah, pretty much it's stopped. Some of the other resort destinations around Sihanoukville, so Alila and Six Senses, are both closed and in hibernation. Songsa is still trading and by all reports had a very good performance in June, because they were basically the only resort destination available in Cambodia. I'm involved with Shintamani Wild. We are closed for the foreseeable future. It's a difficult situation anywhere outside of metropolitan Phnom Penh.
And a quick one on recovery. Do you think will be done anytime first quarter, second quarter next year, or we even stretch it to the year after?
Well, you're talking to a natural pessimist, Mauro. So I'm very much a glass half empty kind of guy, and we had all been sort of hoping that September, October we could sort of get back to some sort of sign of normality. But the last couple of weeks with reinfections appearing in Australia, Hong Kong going through the problems that they have, we really feel that we're not going to see anything until 2021 at the earliest. We're sort of really very pessimistic about what's going to happen for the remainder of this year.
Thank you very much, Douglas. You well and safe in Vietnam. I know you're taking that piece from some resort background on your back, so seems that's
yes.
That same as being Vietnam here, the market has not stopped to actually
stop, no.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Mauro.
So thanks everybody to coming to listen the whole your video today and for all updates. We hope that we enjoy this short type of information we bring to the market. I think we'll do more and more. We have a different set of video to propose. I think it's pretty good for people to just stay connected with industry leader that of course cannot travel, but also to just keep themselves informed. As you see, there are a lot of opportunity coming. There are a lot of change coming into the hospitality market. So thanks again to stay with us. Please follow all the other videos that we are producing. There will be more to come, and there has been a past of interview and webinar that we have done before. Thanks again, and looking forward to the next one.